You know what's wild? Sometimes the person you lean on the most is secretly the one tearing your life apart. I'm Leah. I'm 29. And I learned that lesson the hardest way possible when my so-called best friend decided my marriage needed to burn. But honestly, if I tell you the full story, you'll see why I don't exactly cry myself to sleep over it anymore. Miles and I had been married 7 years. He worked in freight logistics, I handled admin at a health clinic. We weren't rich, but we had our little place, one car, and what I thought was a stable marriage. Sure, there were flaws, there always are. Miles could be distant, wrapped up in work or some random project. And yeah, maybe I vented more than I should have to my best friend, Brooke. Brooke and I went back to college. She knew every argument, every frustration. When Miles left dishes in the sink or forgot groceries, she was there with wine and sympathy. Looking back, maybe I handed her too many details. She was always single, and I pitied her. Sometimes she'd sigh about how lucky I was, how she'd never find a guy like Miles. I thought she was just being supportive. She even joked she'd never let go of a man like him. I brushed it off as harmless girl talk. The week before everything collapsed, I was planning a girls' trip with my mom and sisters. 4 days away from the grind and from Miles's constant work stress. Brooke seemed thrilled for me, texting about how I deserved a break from a husband who didn't appreciate me. She even offered to check in on Miles while I was gone, make sure he ate something besides cereal. The night before I left, Miles barely looked up from his laptop when I told him I'd be gone 4 days. I wanted him to act like he'd miss me. Instead, he muttered, "Have fun," and kept typing. So when Brooke offered to look after him, I agreed. I thought it was sweet she cared. The trip was exactly what I needed: shopping, dinners, time with family. I hardly thought about Miles except to send a couple texts. His replies were the usual short answers, so I figured all was fine. Until the last night. I was ready for bed when a message came in from him: "I know what you did. Be gone when I get home." I froze, staring at the words like they were written in another language. I called, straight to voicemail. Texted, left on read. My chest felt like it was caving in. My mom and sisters could see I was unraveling, but I couldn't explain, because I had no clue what I'd supposedly done. The drive home was torture. My stomach knotted tighter with every mile. When I walked in, Miles was waiting, his eyes filled with disgust I'd never seen before. He started yelling, accusing me of betrayal, of lying for months. I begged him to tell me what he meant. Then came the bomb. Brooke told me everything. About you and her. About the other women. I actually laughed. It was that absurd. Me with Brooke. With other women. I wasn't even attracted to women. Miles knew that. We'd had those conversations. But he wasn't laughing. His hands shook as he said Brooke had confessed, sobbing, about our so-called affair. She told him I'd been hitting on her for months, claiming I was questioning my sexuality, that I was sneaking around with women from dating apps, that I was planning to leave him. It was so outrageous I could barely process it. I kept saying none of it was true, that Brooke was lying for some twisted reason. But Miles just repeated, why would she lie about something like that? She was crying, Leah. She felt awful. And that's when it hit me. He actually believed her. My husband of 7 years, who knew me better than anyone, believed I was living some secret double life. That I was a cheater. That his crying, lying source was more trustworthy than me. And in that moment, I realized everything had already shifted beyond repair. I showed him my phone, my socials, even offered to call Brooke right there on speaker. But Miles shut me down. He said Brooke wasn't answering anymore, that she was too shaken up to talk about it. Convenient, right? We fought for 3 straight days. He wouldn't hear me out, wouldn't look me in the eye. He kept repeating that if I could lie about something this huge, what else had I been hiding? Suddenly every late night, every girl's trip, every innocent friendship became evidence in his head. I tried calling Brooke myself, of course. Straight to voicemail. Then her inbox filled. It was like she dropped a bomb on my marriage and disappeared. By the 3rd day, I was drained, furious, and honestly questioning whether I even knew my own husband. If he really thought I was capable of cheating with Brooke, or anyone, then maybe we weren't who I thought we were. So when he finally said maybe we needed space, I told him fine. Take all the space you want. I expected him to cool off, realize how insane he sounded. Instead, he snapped back, if you want me gone so badly, maybe you should leave since you're the one hiding secrets. So I did. I packed a bag, went to my sister's, and fully expected a phone call within 24 hours. An apology. Something. Instead, 2 days later, a process server knocked on her door with divorce papers. Divorce papers. After 7 years together, he was actually ending our marriage over Brooke's lies. And it got worse. Miles had filed an emergency order blocking me from the house and from seeing our kids, Emma and Liam. The papers said I was a threat to their safety. I just sat there staring at the words, thinking, 3 days ago I was on vacation with my family, and now I'm being painted as some danger to my own children? When I tried calling Miles, his dad, Richard, answered. Richard had always been kind, treated me like a daughter. But this time he sounded cold, disappointed. He said Miles had told them everything and they were supporting him. Supporting him by protecting the children from me. From me. I honestly thought I was losing my mind. The next 5 months were hell. In court, Miles's lawyer painted me as unstable, promiscuous, a risk to my kids. They twisted every venting session I'd ever had with Brooke, me complaining about being overwhelmed, about Miles not helping, into proof I was an unfit mother. And the worst part. Brooke showed up. She testified under oath that we'd had an affair. She sat there in court, dressed all prim and proper like some victim, telling the judge I'd manipulated her, threatened her reputation, made her keep our relationship secret. She had details only a friend would know. She twisted innocent conversations into something intimate, made it all sound so believable that even I started questioning reality. Meanwhile, I was only allowed supervised visits, 2 hours, twice a week, with some stranger watching me hug my kids. Emma was 8, old enough to ask why she couldn't come home with me. Liam was 5 and cried every time they dragged him back to Miles. My kids were being scarred because Brooke decided to torch my life. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Brooke had been my best friend for almost a decade. I'd been there through her breakups, her job losses, her family drama. I'd help her move, lent her money, sat through endless nights of her crying over guys. And this was how she repaid me. After months of draining court battles and money I didn't have, I finally got joint custody. 1 week with me, 1 with Miles. It should have felt like a win, but everything was broken. Miles barely looked at me. Emma had nightmares. Liam clung to me like he was afraid I'd disappear. I tried to make it work, keep things civil, focus on co-parenting. And for a while, it seemed like we were finding a rhythm. Then it all blew up again. My sister called one Tuesday night, practically screaming. She'd run into Brooke at a party with old college friends. And apparently, Brooke had gotten drunk and started bragging. Laughing. Saying she never thought Miles would actually believe her lies, but he was dumb enough to fall for it. And me. I was even dumber for not being able to prove my own innocence. She'd told a whole group of people that. She made everything up because she was tired of listening to me act like I had the perfect life when I had everything she wanted. She said she figured if she couldn't have Miles, at least she could make sure I couldn't have him either. The really sick part, she'd apparently admitted that even after destroying my marriage, she still couldn't get Miles to notice her the way she wanted. Tried reaching out to him after I moved out, offering to be there for him during this difficult time, but he'd shut her down completely. Someone at the party had started recording when Brooke went on her drunk confession, and by the next morning, the video was making rounds through our entire social circle. My phone started blowing up with messages from people apologizing, saying they should have known better, asking if there was anything they could do to help. But the person I most needed to hear from stayed silent. Miles finally called me 3 days after the video went viral. I thought he was going to apologize, maybe suggest we try counseling, figure out how to rebuild what Brooke had destroyed. Instead, he sounded tired and hollow when he spoke. He said he was sorry for believing Brooke, sorry for putting the kids through hell, but that he couldn't just pretend the last 8 months hadn't happened. He said that even knowing the truth now, he couldn't stop resenting me for how I'd handled everything. He thought I should have fought harder to prove my innocence instead of just giving up and leaving. He said he kept thinking about how quickly I'd agreed to separation, how I hadn't seemed desperate enough to save our marriage. How was I supposed to Fight when no one would listen to me. How was I supposed to prove a negative? That I hadn't done something I'd never done. But Miles had already made up his mind. He said he'd started seeing someone new. A woman he'd met through work, who didn't come with years of baggage and betrayal. He wanted to keep our custody arrangement exactly as it was because he thought we worked better as co-parents than we'd ever worked as spouses. His mother, Linda, had been calling him constantly after the video came out, suddenly very interested in us getting back together for the children's sake. She kept showing up at his place with apologies and castles, talking about how we needed to rebuild our family. But Miles wasn't having any of it. The final slap in the face came when Emma mentioned during one of our weeks together that Daddy's friend Catherine had been staying over a lot and made really good pancakes. Catherine, his new girlfriend, had already moved in with him, was already playing house with my children. Miles had completely moved on while I was still trying to figure out how to rebuild a life that Brooke had destroyed with her lies. And Brooke, after the video, ruined her reputation. Here, she'd apparently moved somewhere out of state, leaving behind the wreckage she'd created. It's been over a year now since everything fell apart. Miles married Catherine last month. Emma told me about it when she got back from their week with him. She seemed happy about it. Said Catherine was really nice and makes Daddy smile a lot. Miles looks content whenever I see him at school events or kid exchanges. He's gotten a better position at work, bought a bigger house, seems to have this whole new life figured out. The kids love Catherine, which should make me happy for them. But honestly, it just reminds me of everything I lost. And me, I'm still in the same apartment I moved into after the divorce. Still working the same job. Still trying to piece together a social life after losing most of our mutual friends in the split. Some people reached out after the truth came out. But it wasn't the same. The damage was done. I know I'm supposed to take some responsibility for what happened. Maybe I should have fought harder, been more persistent in proving my innocence. Maybe I shouldn't have complained about Miles so much to Brooke. Maybe I should have seen the signs that she was jealous of what I had. But at the end of the day, I didn't destroy my marriage. Brooke did. She's the one who made up lies about me, who looked me in the eye for months while planning to ruin my life, who sat in a courtroom and swore under oath that I'd done things I never did. Miles chose to believe her over me. He chose to end our marriage without giving me a real chance to defend myself. He chose to move on with someone new, instead of trying to rebuild what we'd had. I can't make people love me or trust me or want to fight for me. All I can do is focus on being the best mother I can be during my weeks with Emma and Liam and try not to think too much about the life I used to have. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd handled things differently, if I'd refused to leave the house, if I'd hired a private investigator right away, if I'd been more dramatic in my denials. But you can't live in the past forever. Miles got his happy ending with Catherine. The kids have a stable home with them. And me. I'm learning to be okay with the pieces that are left. Brooke took everything from me, but she didn't win in the end either. She's alone somewhere, probably still scheming and manipulating, still jealous of other people's happiness. At least I know who I really am. At least I can sleep at night knowing I never betrayed the people who trusted me. That has to count for something, right?